Forget everything you think you know about time travel. The movie Predestination doesn't just break the rules, it creates a paradox so perfect, it's famously known as the chicken or the egg of cinema. The movie opens in the dim basement of a hotel. A man carrying 2 suitcases hurries down the stairs, his movements tense and deliberate. There's a bomb planted somewhere here, and the timer is already counting down. He kneels beside it and begins to disarm it. But before he can finish, another man appears out of nowhere and opens fire. The agent ducks for cover and returns fire in a frantic exchange of bullets echoing through the basement. In the chaos, the agent notices the timer nearing 0. Desperate, he grabs one of his suitcases, trying to open it, but the enemy's bullets keep coming. A sudden explosion of flames erupts, an intense blast that engulfs the room. The man screams in agony as his face and body are scorched by fire. Barely alive, he stumbles toward his case, reaching out with shaking hands. At that exact moment, another man appears, someone we've never seen before. Calm and composed, he helps the injured agent and pushes the suitcase toward him. With his last bit of strength, the wounded man opens it and presses a hidden button just before everything around him vanishes. The next thing we see, he's lying. In a hospital bed, his entire face wrapped in thick white bandages. Only his eyes are visible. 2 men in suits, his colleagues, come to visit him. They tell him he did well, that his mission was a success. Confused, he asks if they caught the bomber, but they avoid the question, insisting he rest and focus on recovery. Weeks later, the day comes for the bandages to come off. The doctor slowly unwraps them, revealing that his face is burned beyond recognition. His old identity is gone forever. The doctor tells him the reconstruction surgery was successful, but his face will never look the same again. He will, however, heal and be able to continue his work. We now learn that this man is not an ordinary agent. He's a temporal agent, a time traveler who moves through time to stop crimes before they happen. His biggest target is a terrorist known as the 𝗍𝗶𝗍𝗲, a dangerous man responsible for several deadly explosions that have claimed countless innocent lives. The agent's entire career revolves around preventing these attacks, each mission sending him deeper into the past in hopes of stopping the bomber once and for all. Months later, after recovering from his injuries, the agent picks up his time travel suitcase and activates it. He reappears in New York City, 1975. Now disguised with his new face, he works undercover as a bartender in a bar. He's waiting for someone, though we don't yet know who. One night, a lone man walks in and sits at the counter. He orders a drink and introduces himself as John. The bartender studies him carefully, then strikes up a friendly conversation. John seems tense, hiding something behind his calm demeanor. As they talk, John suddenly says he has an unbelievable story to tell, something no one would ever believe. The bartender, intrigued, leans in and tells him that if his story is truly as incredible as he says, the drinks will be on the house all night. John takes a deep breath and begins. His story starts in 1945, when a baby girl was left on the steps of an orphanage. The caretakers took her in and named her Jane. Growing up, Jane was different. She was brilliant, with a sharp mind and a natural gift for science and mathematics. She was also physically stronger than most kids her age and could hold her own in any situation. The staff soon realized she wasn't like the others. She was exceptional, almost prodigious. Years later, when Jane was a young woman, she caught the attention of a mysterious man from a secret government organization. He visited the orphanage and told her they were recruiting gifted young women with no family ties for a classified program. He said she might even get the chance to go to space one day, a dream Jane had held since childhood. The offer promised adventure, purpose, and escape from the lonely life she'd always known. Eager for a new beginning, Jane agreed to join them. Her training began the next day, and as always, Jane excelled at everything: academics, physical endurance, strategy. Her exceptional performance drew envy from the others, and a fight soon broke out between her and one of the girls. The next morning, the entire group went through routine medical examinations. That's when the doctors discovered something unusual about Jane's body, but they never told her what it was. Instead, the agency dismissed her from the program, pretending it was because of her aggression during the fight. In reality, the truth about her condition was far more complicated, and it would change her life forever. Jane was devastated after being dismissed from the program. She had dedicated her life to it, believing she'd finally found her purpose. Now, she was left with nothing. No answers, no closure. Deep down, she felt something wasn't right. She knew there was more to her rejection than what they told her. Still, she tried to move on, finding work at a small magazine, writing simple articles just to make ends meet. One day, everything changed. Jane met a man, mysterious, charming, and unlike anyone she'd ever known. They connected instantly. Over time, their friendship blossomed into love. The man seemed to understand her in ways no one else ever had. For the first time in her life, Jane felt truly seen. As John tells the story to the bartender, it's clear he's reliving every emotion of that time. Months passed, and their bond grew stronger. But one day, without warning, the man told Jane he had to leave. He didn't explain why, just promised that he'd return soon. Jane waited for him, days turning into weeks, then months. But he never came back. Her world fell apart. Then, just when she thought she couldn't feel more abandoned, she discovered she was pregnant. Jane carried the baby alone, and eventually, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. But something went terribly wrong during the delivery. The doctors had to perform an emergency operation to save her life. When she finally regained consciousness, they delivered shocking news, something that shattered everything she thought she knew about herself. They told her that her body wasn't like most women's. She had been born with both male and female reproductive organs, a condition that had gone undetected her entire life. The stress of the pregnancy had caused complications, and to save her life, the doctors were forced to remove her female organs. They explained that as her body healed, her hormones would shift, and she would gradually become a fully biological man. Jane was speechless. She couldn't process what she was hearing. Her body, her identity, her future, all of it was changing before her eyes. And then, as if fate hadn't taken enough from her already, tragedy struck again. While she was recovering in the hospital, someone kidnapped her newborn baby. One moment the child was there, and the next, gone. No witnesses, no clues, just unbearable loss. Jane's heart was destroyed. Over the next year, she endured countless medical treatments and surgeries. Slowly, her body changed. Her voice deepened. Her appearance shifted. By the time the transformation was complete, Jane no longer existed. In her place stood John, a man trying to live with the memories of a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. John searched for his stolen daughter everywhere. He visited police stations, hospitals, orphanages, nothing. It was as if the baby had vanished into thin air. Defeated and hollow, he eventually returned to his old job at the Space Corp, trying to live some semblance of a normal life. Back in the bar, John finishes his story. He looks at the bartender, his eyes filled with a strange mix of pride and pain. "So that's it," he says quietly. "That's my story." The bartender studies him for a moment before replying, "You've had quite a life, John." John gives a bitter smile. "You probably don't believe a word of it, do you?" The bartender pauses, then says calmly, "I believe you completely. In fact, I know everything about you." John frowns, confused. "What do you mean you know everything about me?" The bartender begins reciting details, personal ones that John never mentioned. Childhood memories, names, specific moments from Jane's training, things no stranger could possibly know. John's eyes widen in disbelief. "How the hell do you know that?" he demands. The bartender leans closer and finally reveals the truth. "Because I'm not just a bartender, John. I'm a temporal agent, a time traveler, just like the people who once recruited you. I learned everything about your life from Mr. Robertson, the man who ran the program you joined. We work for the same organization." John stares at him, speechless. Then the bartender adds, "And I can help you find the man who ruined your life, the one who left you, the one who started all of this." For a moment, John thinks it's a cruel joke, but something in the bartender's tone convinces him otherwise. He hesitates, then says, "If you can really do that, I want to meet him." The bartender nods and leads John down into the basement. There, on the floor, sits the same strange suitcase we saw earlier. "This," he says, "is a time machine." John stares. "You're kidding." The bartender simply replies, "Close your eyes, or you'll get dizzy." Then he presses a button. The two vanish. When they reappear, it's the year 1963, the same day Jane first met the mysterious man who would change her life forever. The bartender turns to John and says quietly, "Now we wait. He'll be here soon." The bartender gives him a gun and money. John's heart pounds as he realizes what's about to happen. The bartender looks him in the eye and says, "Do what you must, but when it's done, promise me, you'll come with me." "No matter what," John nods slowly. The bartender gives him one last look, then disappears using his suitcase, leaving John standing alone in the past, staring into the night, about to confront the ghost of his own destiny. He's been waiting to find the person who ruined everything. Jane's mysterious lover who left her alone and pregnant. Moments later, a young woman passes by, bumping into him. It's her. It's Jane, the younger version of himself, bright-eyed and full of hope. Time seems to freeze. John realizes what's happening as the same chain of events from Jane's past begins to unfold exactly as before. The conversation, the laughter, the spark, it's all identical. And in that devastating moment, John understands the horrifying truth. The man he's been chasing all these years isn't someone else. It's him. He is the man who broke Jane's heart. He is the lover who disappeared. He is the father of the baby Jane gave birth to, his own baby. The circle is complete. John stares at his younger self, at Jane, and realizes he's trapped in an unbreakable loop, bound by time itself. Meanwhile, the bartender travels to another point in time, the very first scene we saw at the beginning of the movie. He arrives at the hotel basement where a bomb has been planted by the Fizzle bomber. The timer is counting down, and chaos erupts as the bartender moves in to defuse it. Suddenly, the Fizzle bomber appears, and a violent fight breaks out. Shots are fired, and the bartender is injured. In the middle of the struggle, the bomb detonates, engulfing everything in fire. As the smoke clears, the bartender sees a man crawling on the floor, his face and body completely burned. And then it hits him. The man he's looking at is himself. This burned man is his younger self from the past. We now realize the truth. The scene that opened the movie was never between two different people. It was a closed time loop. The bartender saves the burned man, who will later undergo surgery and return to life as the very same bartender, continuing the cycle. After this realization, the bartender travels once more, this time to the hospital where Jane gave birth years earlier. Inside, Mr. Robertson, his superior, is waiting for him. He reminds the bartender of his final mission. The bartender looks conflicted, but he follows orders. He sneaks into the nursery, picks up Jane's newborn baby, and quietly leaves. Moments later, he activates his time machine, jumping all the way back to 1945. He walks up the steps of the orphanage and places the baby on the doorstep. The same baby who would grow up to become Jane, who would later become John. The loop closes perfectly. The baby, the mother, and the father, all the same person. The bartender then returns to 1963, just in time to see John with young Jane. He watches from a distance as John prepares to leave her. The bartender steps forward and tells John it's time to go. But John refuses, shaken by everything he's learned. "I can't leave her," he says. "She'll be heartbroken." The bartender's expression hardens. "You have to," he says quietly. "If you stay, the entire timeline will collapse. Everything we've done, all of it, will be destroyed. You have to save millions of lives. You have to let it happen." John looks back at Jane one last time, the woman who was once him, the love of his own life, and finally nods. The bartender promises him that he'll get answers soon, that Mr. Robertson will explain everything. The bartender activates the suitcase again, and the two men vanish, landing in 1985. There, Mr. Robertson greets them. He congratulates the bartender on completing his mission, saying he's finally earned his retirement. But the bartender protests. "The Fizzle bomber is still out there," he says. "He hasn't been stopped." Mr. Robertson shakes his head. "Your mission is over. Rest now. You've done your part." The bartender reluctantly returns to his retirement place in 1975. He checks his time machine and CSAN indicator decommissioned, meaning it's now deactivated. For the first time in years, he allows himself to breathe. He believes his long, exhausting journey through time is finally over. But then, suddenly, the machine reactivates. Confused, he opens a sealed envelope left by Mr. Robertson. Inside is a report containing solid evidence about the Fizzle bomber's next attack. The mission isn't over after all. At the same time, back in 1985, John wakes up and finds a cassette tape left behind by the bartender. He plays it and hears the bartender's voice explaining everything. How to use the time machine, the rules of being a temporal agent, and the truth about his own destiny. With nothing left to lose, John accepts his fate. Under Mr. Robertson's guidance, he becomes a temporal agent himself, using the same device and stepping into the same endless loop. Eventually, he'll become the bartender, continuing the cycle, one that has no beginning and no end. Meanwhile, the bartender, now officially retired, can't find peace. Even though his missions are supposed to be over, the obsession with the Fizzle bomber continues to haunt him. The memories, the unanswered questions, the endless cycles through time, none of it will leave him alone. So when new evidence suddenly appears, pointing directly to the bomber's location, he decides to follow it, breaking every rule of retirement. He tracks the Fizzle bomber through dark, empty corridors of an abandoned laundromat, finally ready to end the nightmare that has consumed his entire life. But when he sees the 𝗍𝗶𝗀𝗲's face, the bartender freezes. The man before him is himself, an older version of him. The realization hits like a thunderclap. The 𝗍𝗶𝗀𝗲, the terrorist who has killed countless innocent people, the monster he's been chasing through time, is his own future self. The bartender stares in disbelief, his mind spiraling. "No," he whispers. "That's not possible." But the 𝗍𝗶𝗀𝗲 speaks calmly, almost gently. "It's true," he says. "I didn't do it, we did. And I prevented even worse disasters. I stopped wars before they started." He looks at his younger self with pity. "You don't understand yet, but you will. You'll see that everything I've done was for the greater good." The bartender's voice trembles with rage. "You murdered innocent people!" The 𝗍𝗶𝗀𝗲 shakes his head. "No, I saved more than I killed." He takes a step closer. "Now that you've found me, we can end this fight. You don't have to keep chasing ghosts. Work with me. Together we can make it right." The bartender's jaw tightens. His eyes fill with fury. "I will never become a madman like you." The 𝗍𝗶𝗀𝗲 gives a sad smile. "You already are me." Unable to bear it, the bartender raises his gun and fires. The bullet hits the 𝗍𝗶𝗀𝗲 square in the chest. He collapses to the ground, lifeless. Smoke drifts from the barrel of the gun as the bartender stands over his own future self. Angry, broken, and completely lost. In that single moment, he believes he's finally broken the cycle. But deep down, he knows the truth. Every action he's taken was always part of the loop. And now, everything comes full circle. This is where the film's entire mystery finally clicks into place. When John first became an agent and went on his mission, the explosion left his face horribly burned. After surgery, he emerged with a new face and identity, becoming the bartender. Later, as the bartender, he recruited his own younger self, John, unknowingly setting in motion the same events that would lead John to repeat the cycle all over again. Let's piece it together. It all begins with Jane, a baby abandoned at an orphanage in 1945. She grows up, joins a secret program, falls in love with a mysterious man, and has a baby. That man turns out to be John, her future male self after transitioning. The baby she gives birth to is then stolen by the bartender, another future version of her, and placed at the orphanage in the past. That baby grows up to become Jane, completing the loop of the cycle. Predestination shows us the ultimate paradox. A life that sustains itself, a soul forever trapped in its own timeline, a snake eating its own tail, a person destined to chase, fight, and become the very thing they were trying to stop. On IMDb, this movie was rated by 329,000 people and has an average rating of 7.4. We hope you enjoyed this movie explanation. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.